We continue our story at the raid of Iacon an hour after Stinger was fully repaired. Megatron, Soundwave, and Breakdown are simply waiting. And Megatron simply states, "Ah, finally, you two have arrived. I assure you the repairs were very fruitful, were they not, Stinger?" And this is where Stinger and Shadow Striker pretty much transform from their respective car modes, or their Cybertronian car modes, obviously, and simply give Megatron a bow, with Shadow Striker obviously going lower, and Stinger kind of being a bit more formal. And this is where Stinger simply states, "I appreciate it. Now, please, Lord Megatron, what would you have me do?" And this is where Megatron simply states, "Today is the day we get you your revenge. But also, I do need the Omega Key. Get that for me, and I will have Sentinel, or Zeta, if you will, at your feet, at your mercy." And Stinger simply states, "Very well," and literally touches his side of his head, if you will, and actually shows schematics of Iacon, showing everything about it from the very details of the paint. Okay, again, remember, former elite guard commander, second only to die Atlas, master strategist. So he got this city locked in his memory. And so this is where Megatron gives him an assignment and simply states, "Very good. Now, you will regroup with a few Decepticons that will become your official team. I want you to destroy the security system of Iacon and make this city vulnerable." And this is where Stinger simply states, "It will be done." And this is where he looks at Shadow Striker and states, "You ready to go?" And Shadow Striker's like, "Heck yeah, let's make these Autobots pay for what they've done." And so both of them transform and drive off. And well, they actually move through Iacon, dispatching drones left and right, cloakers, basic gunners, and even some heavy, gunners and stuff like that. Dispatching all of them with absolute ease, and Stinger even states it's a lot easier than he expected. To which Shadow Striker states, "Well, we all can't be an elite guard commander." And this is where they actually get to the location where they're supposed to meet their teammate. And this is where Stinger looks around and states, "Where is he?" And this is where he sees a drone flying past him, and he's like, "Oh, there he is." So this is where they see him. The big black hunk himself, the Decepticon technician and medical officer of this team, that being Blackout, laying waste to drone after drone after drone before utilizing his, I forgot what it was called. It was some type of cannon, right? But it just made like a lot, had a huge pulse on it. I think it was his white noise cannon or something like that. But again, let me know in the comment section down below. But this cannon clears out every drone in the vicinity except for Titans. And this also combined with a lot of heavier, more militaristic drones like aerial bots and maybe some ground dwellers as well, or some ground drones, if you will. This does begin to overwhelm Blackout. And Shadow Striker and Stinger are looking on as he's still taking a good number of them out. But again, eventually he does get subdued. And this is where Shadow Striker notes, dang it. He should have been here with backup. The rest of the two should have been here by now. Where are they? But right now we do need to save him. But when she looks over, Stinger's not even there. He's already on the battlefield, getting right down to work. And he simply states, "Yo, I got you." And this is where he begins to lay waste to every drone here. And when I tell you, it could honestly look magnificent. The first drone, he drop kicks and slams right into the ground. Then he uses his plasma sword to bisect a Titan in half. And Shadow Strike is like, dang, he's got it. And, he's just tearing them up, right? Simply blasting them all around, maneuver around them, using their guns against each other. Again, I'm going to have to say this. Elite Guard Commander for a reason. Second only to die Atlas. This man works the entire drone group out, and even Blackout's like, dang, who is this man? And well, after he's done finishing him off, Shadow Striker comes down and is like, dude, absolutely breathtaking. And he's like, "Oh, if I could blush, that would actually make me. Now, as for you, Are you okay? And this is where he simply extends his hand, and Blackout, without any hesitation, takes it. He simply asks, so you're Stinger, right? The person I'm supposed to be under the command? It's an absolute honor, and I will give you my undying loyalty for what you've done today. And Stinger simply states, that's all I could ask. Now, where's the rest of the team? And what are you good at? So, Blackout explains that he's a technician and a medical officer. So, Stinger's like, okay, good. Then you're going to have that role still. I don't want you fighting too much out here. And this is where Shadow Striker simply asks him, where are the other two? And Blackout states they were actually dismantling a group of Autobots before I had to go on ahead. Because again, they were taking their sweet time. Especially the one crazy one in particular. And this is where Stinger simply asks, great, so they should be here soon, right? And this is where we see a jet flying overhead and a motorcycle coming down below. And Shadow Striker simply looks up and face palms herself. She's like, oh god. We really have to have this one on our team. I swear Megatron did this on purpose. And Stinger looks at her like, what's wrong with the Jet one real quick? Wait, who is the Jet one? And so the Jet transforms, and who do we have? Everyone's favorite D1 Glazer, Lugnut. And Stinger simply goes, oh, yeah. Well, I guess I'm just going to have to get used to this at this point. Turning off audio receptors will be needed. And Lugnut simply states, ready to serve you, sir. Under the guise and under the mighty heel of Megatron shall we crush everything. And this is where Stinger's like, oh my god, this dude really does glaze Megatron. And Shadow Striker's like, yep. And Blackout simply states, don't worry, you'll get used to it. Or better yet, do that first suggestion, turning off your audio receptors. And this is where they actually see a motorcycle skidding around them. And this is where Stinger actually puts two and two together. And he's like, oh, okay. So I'm guessing this one is Flamor. So Flamor does transform. But after that, Lugnut simply tells her to stop playing around with his food or with her food. And this is where Shadow Striker simply shoves Lugnut, telling her not to talk to her sister like that. And this is where Flamor actually walks over to Stinger and actually gives him a good old salute. And simply states that she is the Decepticon interrogator. And she's also the resident psycho of the Decepticons. And this is where Stinger simply states, yeah, I've worked with worse. Into which Flamor actually does take a jab at this. And she's like, oh, yeah, I mean, that does make sense considering you were betrayed by them. And Stinger looks at her, like almost giving her a silent, like, dang, I like this one already. So Stinger's like, okay, so since this is our official team, and we still have to meet up with a few others real quick, as he does need to make a meeting with this particular group. And so, there we have it. Team Stinger right here. Flame War, Shadow Strike, Lugnut, and Blackout. However, they head to the Fortress Maximus, one of the former Elite Guard HQs, but again, due to the war and due to everything that's happened, it's kind of been left to whoever takes command of it. And so waiting outside of it around dead Viacons or dead, Autobot troopers are pretty much just the Constructicons. And so when Stinger and his team are alive, this is where Scrapper and him lock eyes or lock optics. Keep in mind, Stinger took down Devastator back then when he was working for the Autobots. And so the two of them simply look at each other. Stinger offers his hand and Scrapper offers his. And this kind of shows that they're moving past this. They know good and well what Stinger's been through. And understanding how he is now, they're willing to work with him in order to really achieve this cause. And this is where Scrapper simply asks him, what's the orders? And he simply tells him, we're taking every Autobot hostage. No deaths unless they're the ones I really need to be dead. And so the Constructicons are like, okay, yeah, I mean, fair point here. And keep in mind, a lot of the Decepticons do respect Stinger, simply because of not only what he did for the Autobots, but what he's doing for them now is absolutely unrepayable. Like, there's no debt to him at all. And this is where Stinger begins forming an operation as more, or forming up his team as all of these drones begin to come out from the Fortress Maximus. And this is where he has Flame War, sniping and burning Decepticons from the side, having her run around and go crazy. Lugnut actually being the vanguard and pushing through, nuking and even destroying every Decepticon. Blackout taking a back rear behind Lugnut, using his Crescent or his Mega Cannon or whatever to basically blast through any Decepticons and then meleeing anyone who gets too close to him. And then there's Devastator, the absolute tank of this team. Straight up curb stomping and obliterating any Titans, aerial bots that come his way. And then we have Stinger and Shadow Striker back to back, working together side by side, tearing through the the Autobot hordes. And well, we go inside the Fortress Maximus, and we see a group of wreckers preparing under the command of Ultra Magnus. And we see Ultra Magnus, Wheeljack, Bulkhead, Hot Rod, Strong Arm, Springer, and Jetfire. However, in the back, we see Impactor, Rotorstorm, and Roadbuster. And they're kind of like hiding in the back, trying not to really be noticed by the other wreckers. And this is where Impactor simply states, man, this is going left pretty quick. We might need to get out of here as quick as possible, maybe even go somewhere else. And Roadbuster simply states, yeah, but what if he shows up? What if they know? What if the other Autobots know? What if that yellow one knows? And to which Rotorstorm is like, what, that scout? No way. There's no way he would actually know what we've been doing here. And this is where Roadbuster states, it's better safe than sorry. We need to find a way to silence him. Maybe I could just grab him and crush him into a ball like I did Skids. And this is where they all kind of look out the window and they see Team Stinger out there, the Decepticons, tearing through them. And this is where they also look up and they see Devastator right behind them, just looking menacing. All these Decepticons working together like a unit they never had before. And Stinger simply states, Wreckers, come on out. I want every single one of y'all here. Come out quietly, come out peacefully, and there will be no harm. And this is where Ultra Magnus and his team pretty much go out, stating that they are not going to surrender, and they are not surrendering Iacon security anytime soon. And this is where Blackout simply states, well, can't blame Kaon for trying. Guess we'll be doing this the hard way after all. And so, Stinger gives the command and tells the Decepticons to attack. And this is where Devastator provides absolutely the best distraction for the Wreckers. However, we see Stinger and Ultra Magnus simply fight it out on, I guess you could say, the more entrance area of the fortress. And Ultra Magnus states, you were the best of us. And Stinger simply states, yeah, he was. Now I'm the best of them. And this is where Ultra Magnus simply pulls out his blasters and says, so be it. And pretty much they both have a shoot off for a bit. But keep in mind, Stinger's cannon, or Stinger's weapon, is the Bloodstorm Cannon, a combiner killer. And with him not wanting to kill Ultra Magnus, he basically uses it to fire at the ground, creating a shockwave that pretty much disrupts his balance. However, Ultra Magnus uses this opportunity to simply get in a haymaker that sends Stinger back. And so he tries to follow up with a punch. However, Stinger, if he could, he would smirk as he simply flips right underneath Ultra Magnus, grabs his arm, spins him around, and then power slams him. Both of them go tumbling down, I guess you could say tumbling around for a bit, and begin scrapping until Stinger pretty much just drop kicks Ultra Magnus off him. And he tells Magnus, I was the best of the best for the reason. Always balanced, always well trained, always strategically thinking. You're not beating me, Magnus. And this is where we actually see Impactor, Roadbuster, and Rotorstorm looking on from the window like nothing more than cowards. And they simply state, this is getting bad, isn't it? And Rotorstorm is like, heck yeah. And so we would see Ultra Magnus now cornered by a confident Stinger as he pretty much opens his blasters and then tries to lay in fire on Stinger. However, Stinger bounces off a wall and then simply knees Ultra Magnus right in the face. Like straight up, ding. and pretty much drops him right then and there, knocking him out cold. And Shadow Striker's like, God dang, that was hot. And I mean, she is flustered by this. Taking down the Wrecker commander like it was absolutely nothing. And Stinger looks at her like, what's wrong? Act like you never seen a bot doing his glorious work out here. And Shadow Striker pretty much fixes herself and is like, don't get full of yourself here. By the way, we caught the rest of them. And so the Decepticons put every Wrecker in front of him. And he pretty much just walks around and looks at them and simply tells him that he's very sorry about this. He really is. However, the truth will all be revealed in time. And this is where he simply looks to the Constructicons and tells them they did an amazing job. To which all the Constructicons simply nod and simply salute their commander. However, there's one person in particular he didn't expect to see here. And he takes a double check of them and he's like, Strongarm, my guard, what are you doing here? And to which she asks, what are you doing here with the cons, working with them? You were the best. You were my idol. And look at you. To which Stinger simply states, Strongarm, I'm sorry it had to be like this, but I will make sure you get the best care possible. And maybe once you learn the truth, you'll be at my side again. You are one of my best students, a fierce warrior. And Strongarm simply states she would never be alongside him. Joining the cons after what they've done, to which Stinger's like, you may not understand it yet, but soon you will. But this is where he feels a tapping on his shoulder, and he turns to Flamewar, asking her, what is it? And Flamewar simply states, oh, I don't know. I think you would like to know that we were actually being watched by a couple cowards the whole time. And so Stinger turns, and he sees Impactor looking at him dead in the optics. Like, and Impactor's like, oh crap. I think he sees us. And this is where Stinger's normal, visor eyes go from green to red immediately. And he tells the Decepticons to get the Autobots to the prison camp now. And transforms, drives right through the door of the building, and absolutely hounds them. And this is where Impactor simply has them, has Roadbuster and Rotorstorm transform, and they straight up book it out of there as fast as they can. But Stinger straight up hounds them. And when I mean hound them, it's looking like you being chased by Godzilla in 1998 after pissing him off. And so we get a chase in like vehicle form, then they get into a hallway where they gotta run robot form, and Stinger transforms and he's letting out rapid shots of his cannon. And then this is where we pan over to like Flamewar and Shadow Striker, and they're like, so who you betting on how many he gets? And Shadow Striker says, at least one, but she cannot tell which one it is. And this is where Impactor, Roadbuster, and Rotorstorm are running for their lives at this point. Stinger's exhausted his Bloodstorm cannon, and luckily they weren't hit. But this is where Rotorstorm notes they're not going to get away. The only way they're going to get away is if they distract him. And this is where Impactor simply states, that's a good idea. So we're going to need to find a way for him to be distracted. And he says, I have the perfect idea. And so he transforms his hand, or pretty much uses his hook hand, because he did lose it in the first part, and slashes at Rotorstorm's leg, actually taking it off. And this is where Rotorstorm is like, dude, what the heck? You traitor. And this is where Roadbuster simply puts a bomb on the wall and simply states, sorry, Rotorstorm, it was either you or one of us, and we're definitely having it be you. And he blows the wall, and this does collapse a good part of the building. And honestly, I'm going to say it buries both Impactor and Roadbuster beneath rubble before they can really get out to the second exit. And so this is where Stinger pretty much drives up in front of Rotorstorm and transforms. And Rotorstorm looks into his optics and is like, hey, buddy. Now, fast forward to the rubble incident. Bumblebee was nearby when seeing this, and he runs over and tries to pick them out. But he doesn't realize that it's Rollbuster and Impactor. And then when they get out, they say, just the bot we were talking about today. And Impactor states, Bumblebee, Stinger's brother, if I remember correctly. And Bumblebee simply gets out his blasters and simply asks them to put their hands up and come with him quietly. They have a lot to answer for. However, Impactor says, yeah, but you won't be telling anybody anytime soon. And he overpowers Bumblebee, grabs him by the throat, and Bumblebee's like, wait, what are you doing? And this is where Impactor simply states, tying up loose ends. And he squeezes. And this is where Stinger's eyes go from red to green again when he realizes who's screaming. It's his brother. And he rushes through as fast as he can, blows through the rubble, but he's too late. And he looks at the ground and sees his brother's body, his throat crushed, him being beaten, and honestly somewhat just mauled. And he looks at him like, no, brother, what? Who? They did this. No, please be alive, please be alive, please be alive. However, this is where he actually hears somebody crawling, and that's Rotorstorm. He's like, gotta get out of here, gotta tell the others what they did to me, dag nabbit. However, Stinger then gets his visors back to red, and he rushes at Rotorstorm with his plasma blade and slices him right down the middle, killing him instantly. And so he turns his attention back to his brother, and he simply states, okay, you're alive, right? I gotta put you somewhere. And he puts him up against a wall, and he simply states, dang it, do I bring him back? What do I do? However, this is where he actually sees two Autobots coming forward, and Stinger ultimately decides that it is best that he goes with them for right now. And so he disappears. And well, this is where Optimus or Orion and Ratchet pretty much come in, with Ratchet pretty much finding Bumblebee and stating that he'll make a recovery, but his voice box is damaged. This is where Stinger regroups back in the Fortress Maximus with Blackout, and he states the Iacon, security system is offline. To which Stinger simply states, good, make sure it's destroyed. And Blackout nods, pointing taking out his melee weapon or his rotary blades and simply just slashing the controls to absolute pieces. But he asks him if he's okay, and Stinger states he doesn't know just yet. But this is when the Constructicons note that Megatron is contacting them, and they did manage to get the prisoners on a transportation ship, and they're heading towards the facilities now. So Stinger has the Constructicons go ahead and regroup with any Decepticons out there, and this is where they actually do meet Megatron, who had just finished his campaign part, or basically finished the standard mission. And he throws Zeta Prime, a damaged Zeta Prime, at Stinger's feet, saying, exactly as I promised. And this is where Zeta's like, Stinger, you're alive? This is all your fault. And this is where Stinger, enraged, still gets his plasma blade out, and it's burning at this point with plasma. And he's about to slice him until Megatron tells him to stop. Stinger looks at Megatron and is like, I thought he was for me. Oh, but he is. But wouldn't you like to make this an actual trial? A true trial. One that shows that our way is right. And this is where, obviously, everyone's favorite D1 Glazer goes, yes, brilliant Lord Megatron. Yes, we can finally have true Decepticon justice. And this is where Stinger goes, Lugnut, shut up for 5 minutes. And this is where Stinger simply asks, will you give him to me in order to kill? And this is where Megatron simply states, yes, he is yours to execute, mark my word. But let's make this one for the history books. And Shadow Striker simply states, well, then we'll take him to Kaon and get him repaired for the pits. Full melee combat only, no long-range weapons. Not my style, but it is what it is. And this is where Megatron simply states, perfect. By the way, I will be putting the Constructicons officially with you, as you've done a remarkable job, Commander Stinger. And Stinger looks in disbelief for a moment, but simply bows to Megatron, telling him, "Thank you, my Lord Megatron. I will gladly do what you ask." And this is where we will fast forward to Optimus's part. But instead of Bumblebee, it's going to be Cliffjumper in this timeline, because he still needs emergency repairs. So Optimus, Sideswipe, and Cliffjumper. Team Red going full force. And so we would actually go to the bottom part of the Kaon prison, where Stinger is walking through towards the pit, actually kind of pacing back and forth and getting ready. However, he notices some Autobots in the cell and walks towards them and sees Jazz, Blue Streak, and RC, couple friends of his from back then. And this is where they look at him in shock. And this is where Jazz is like, "Dude, you're alive? Oh, come on, man. And you're working with the cons? Like, what happened?" And this is where Blackout, who's with Stinger at this point, simply states, "You do not need to address them, you know. You could just wait until the trial." And this is where Stinger simply states, "It's all right, Blackout. Let them talk." And he simply tells them that right now, everything will be revealed, my friend. And maybe you'll join me. To which Jazz is like, "Join the cons? Nah, man, that ain't my style. But you were the best of us. I thought we were buddies." To which Stinger says, "We are. We still are. I'm your friend. I won't ever harm you or kill you unless you push me to that point." And this is where RC notes, "Then why are you with the cons? What happened to drive you this far? Where are Skids and Nautica? Did you kill them?" And Stinger does fight his anger back a little bit, and he's like, "No, I didn't. But you'll all see soon. Just wait." And this is where the Constructicons simply come in and say, "Sir, it's time. Time for you to seek your justice, to get your justice, and make it for one of the history books." And this is where Stinger simply nods and looks towards the group and says, "Just watch the light show." And so Stinger walks into the gladiator arena, as Optimus, Cliffjumper, and Sideswipe are basically given into their cell where they can actually get a spectacle of it. And well, this is where I guess you could say like another side of their cell simply drops, but it still has like energy barriers that will like electrocute them when they try to get through. And this is where we see Megatron and kind of surrounded by the Combaticons, pretty much giving his speech, saying, "Decepticons and Autobots alike, today we get true justice this day. Here is where we decide how justice is dictated. The guilty and the innocent, via not only visual representation, but only given one type of trial to prove their innocence or their guilt. A trial by combat. I've made a name for myself here today, but today your commander will make one for himself here as well." And so Stinger walks out of his door, getting ready, or pretty much fully ready for battle. And the Decepticons cheer him, with his team cheering him as well. And everyone chants, "Stinger, Stinger, Stinger, Stinger." And you know, we got everybody cheering. His team's cheering, you got every Decepticon, Insecticon, you name it. They are all cheering. Obviously with Shockwave kind of into the side, like, logical. And so this is where Zeta Prime is let out, fully repaired, and well, I guess you could say somewhat disabled, as again, they did take away his gun privileges, just as much as they took away Stinger's as well. And this is where Megatron simply states, "Today we get justice. Today we get truth. And today we show the Decepticons' form of justice. Now, the only case we need here. Shockwave, if you please." And so Shockwave plays Stinger's memory bit by bit. And while the Autobots watch as Stinger is not only able to fight against the Wreckers, but that his team was ambushed, that Nautica and Skids were killed in such brutal fashion. And Orion is looking like, no, this can't be. this isn't Zeta Prime. This has to be a lie. And this is where RC is looking like, oh my God, they did this to him? The High Council, there's no way. However, it doesn't stop here. They also play Zeta's memories of this incident. And Sunstreaker is like, you rotten and dirty traitor. You did this to our commander? Someone who was loyal, someone who was dedicated. And this is where we see some of the Autobots kind of just quiet, but some of them actually on Stinger's side. We see Sunstreaker and his cellmate, obviously being another elite guardsman, that being Strongarm. And she looks in disbelief and sadness that this was her cause. This is what they did. And even Jazz is like, nah, this ain't cool. There's no way. He did this to Stinger? Someone who's dedicated his life to the cause? And Bluestreaker's like, you deserve death. You don't even deserve that Autobot symbol. And so we hear every Decepticon and just about every Autobot minus Orion, who's in shock here, booing Zeta, calling for his head. However, Megatron simply states, now, everyone. Zeta will have a chance to prove his innocence. There is only one way. He has to win. He has to be able to beat Stinger in one-on-one combat. And this is where Zeta states, how do I know Stinger doesn't have his blaster? So Stinger makes his cannon and tries to blast it at him, and shows that the core of his cannon is gone, and states, I'm gonna beat you with my bare hands. I'm not even gonna use my blade. And this is where he actually disconnects his plasma blade from it. And Zeta simply states, so it's like that. We can't make amends? To which Stinger simply states, Stinger and Nautica aren't here, so you do the math. And so, with that being said, Stinger simply asks a Sentinel, why would he try to make amends? Why would he try to bargain with him, knowing good and well what he did? And Zeta does laugh, simply states, perhaps I should have finished you when I did. And so, both of them get ready. Zeta summons his bladed staff, and he states, not having a weapon in combat is foolish. And Stinger simply states, dude, I'm better than you. Always have been, and always will be. And to which Shadow Striker's like, yeah, that's right, Stinger. Go ahead, tell him that you're better. And make it count. Make one for the history books. Make one for the Decepticons. And for yourself. And Megatron states, with everything being instated, let the trial begin. Brawl, give the order. And Brawl states, all right. In 3, 2, 1. Begin. And they both rush at each other full speed. Sentinel, having the weapon advantage, simply goes on, jumps in the air, and spins his blade, and then tries to come down. However, Stinger dodges and jabs him right in the gut, with the crowd going wild for this. And Stinger states, I was trained by Diatlas, one of your former right-hand mans, and he told me he was better than you. And so Zeta swings again, but Stinger ducks underneath, tackles him, and then suplexes him right into the ground, telling Zeta, he was right. You suck at combat. But like I said earlier, I'm better than you in every single way. You thought you could be here, be a prime, and do these kind of dirty deeds? Ha! And I thought Megatronus and Liege Maximo were bad. And this is where Flame War's like, dang, this is getting really good. Bro's about to give a good speech, ain't he? And this is where Zeta simply states, I am nothing like those primes. I am far better than what they were. And Stinger simply laughs as Zeta tries to punch at him, because again, he lost his staff at this point. And Stinger ducks, wails on him, and then causes him to tumble back with a sidekick. He then jumps onto Sentinel's back and then grabs one of his arms and twists it, causing parts of it to fall off. And this is where Sunstreaker is like, yeah, that's right. Get him. You beat him. I join you guys here today. And Strongarm simply states, I second that. And this is where Zeta simply states, more traitors. I will deal with you when I'm done. And this just ignites an absolute fire within Stinger, to where when Zeta lunges at him, he still has his other arm. So he flips over, grabs his arm, or grabs the other arm, and rips them both off monstrously. And this is where Megatron simply laughs as he sees both Strongarm and Sunstreaker take a knee. And he simply states to other Decepticons, go ahead and get them out their cells and get them ready. And Orion, watching this, is like, no, this can't be how the Autobot cause simply ends. Us being captive or us contemplating whether or not this is true. This has to end. This is not justice. And Stinger is now wailing on Sentinel, tossing him around, throwing him like a rag doll. And Shadow Striker is like, yeah, that's right. Milk everything he can out of it. And this is where Lugnut is like, it is not one of Megatron's gladiatorial battles, but it is at least a great spectacle. To which Blackout was like, dude, shut up about Megatron for 5 minutes and let our team leader enjoy his glory. And this is where we actually see Zeta on his knees stating, please, I yield. Mercy. And this is where Stinger is like, and turns to the crowd. Is this your prime? This is the man that betrayed me, betrayed my team, and used the Wreckers as pawns in his game. But yet here he is, and he proceeds to grab him by his leg, ragdoll him like a Hulk and Loki situation, and then holds him up. Here he is, defeated, broken, and helpless. Is this what a prime is? Some sniveling coward who betrays all who are with him? All those allies and all those years I've worked, all those people and all the ones I've trained. It was for nothing, as I was betrayed and left there to die. And this is where we actually see Strongarm with 2 Decepticon symbols and Sunstreaker with 1 right on his chest, standing alongside the rest of Stinger's team. And this is where Megatron is like, yes. It's just like a little me out there. Love this guy already. And this is where Orion is just like, this isn't how it should be. But is he right? Is this what a prime is? And so Stinger simply tells them, you make your choices here today. But right now, I will get what I deserve. And he shoves his hand through Sentinel, or right deep within Sentinel, and then pulls back, ripping out every single cord, intestine, everything out of him. And Sentinel simply screams in pain for a moment before falling lifeless, as Stinger holds essentially the protoformed, torn skeletal frame of Sentinel out like a trophy and throws it to the ground and leaves the arena with the crowd roaring wildly. However, this is where his team joins him, and we would see Strongarm and Sunstreaker alongside him. And that's where we're going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe and share with your friends. And yes, I will be editing the picture so I can add the Constructicons in it, because that will be the official team for this one, and they are called the Deathbringers. But let me know what you guys think about this chapter. I know it was longer than expected, but hey, I wanted to make this as good of a series as possible. But that's going to be all for today, you guys, and I'll see y'all for the next part. Peace.